President Bola Tinubu has inaugurated a 44-member planning committee for a national youth conference. He called on young Nigerians to take charge of the country's future and vowed to implement the recommendations tackling unemployment, education reform and political participation, as food security.
Japa, the man means Nigeria, they leave Nigeria. It's because if you grow prosperity back home and you empower people, they will not bother. We stay home. This is your home to develop, build, and make prosper. I'm glad you all are here as a committee to inspire today, tomorrow, and thereafter. I'm with you. When we started, it looked so foggy, dicey, and hopeless. We tried hard and we're drawing water from a dry well. But today the economy has turned the corner. One of you, Dr. Boku, is here. NDDC, commending your efforts. Doing very well to make Nigeria a better place for you. I've listened to the remark of your spokesperson. You have the great opportunity of advancing the development of this country. It's all in your hand. Mine is to help navigate and push and lift the heavyweight problems so I can clear the path for you to have a very great future. But it's in your hand. Look at me in the face. Tell me whatever you think is wrong and the way you want this done or suggestions. We try to implement all of it as long as it is for the prosperity of this country.
What the committee will be doing is to set the 30 days of this Confab and make sure that both financing, implementation, putting together in all senatorial districts, in all regions, putting the workforce together for the committee to implement this Confab.
Right, we're joined now by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Citizenship and Leadership, Risola Abiola. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight. Well, as we're watching that report, you know, and just looking at those gentlemen there, including, of course, the NDDC boss and others, what came to mind was, are these people really youth? And he said, look, you're ready to address it. So I'd like you to address that on the one hand. And on the other hand, I mean, is this really, is government really, genuinely ready to listen to the Nigerian youth? Especially if you look back at recent events, not too long ago, there was the NSAS, there was a pushback from government, and then there was bad governance, there was that pushback, and what have you. And you wonder, is this not just some kind of distraction, or to give the young Nigerians this illusion that they actually needed in the mainstream?
So I would begin by answering the second question. This is not a government that believes in creating an illusion of inclusion or value for young people. If you may recall, this is the very first time that we're having a truly young Minister of Youth Development, someone who actually does fall within the youth bracket. And the separation of the Ministry of Youth as well from the Ministry of Sports speaks clearly to Mr. President's intentions to truly prioritize youth issues. So if it was about illusions, if it was about pulling the wool over our eyes as young people, there would be no need to go to that length at all. There would be no need for it. As well, a lot of us who are also serving in different capacities are young people. A lot of the women serving in this government are young women, heading agencies, a lot of young people working as advisors to the president. I'm one of them, you know, different cadres. You'll find lots of young DGs, heads of even regional development agencies. This is a government that truly believes that to move the country forward, everybody has to be involved. There has to be equitable participation. There has to be equitable representation. And young people do have something to offer. So that's something that has been apparent since during the campaign. We had a very vibrant youth wing. So the youth representation that we're witnessing now is a continuation of that. So there's no illusion at all. And the president would not actually have to announce a youth confab if he just wanted to distract young people. There are always allegations of young people being distracted by entertainment, but we're not doing that.
Great.
So we're saying young people do have something to offer to national development. Young people do have the brains, they have ideas, and let us bring young people together. For the first time in the history of this country, we're having a conference dedicated entirely to hearing young people, to amplifying their voices, to knowing what exactly young people want to see when it comes to national development, when it comes to governance. So this is not an illusion at all. It is proof of Mr. President's commitment to empowering young people, to hearing from young people, to ensuring that his government is working closely with young people. Now to the first question.
Great.
Yes.
Great.
So the committee, if you noticed, when the brief clip from the inauguration was shown, you would notice if you looked at the name plaques, you would see that some had organizations reflected as well.
Right.
So at the Ministry of Youth Development, which is where my office is domiciled, by the way, we have quite a number of partners that we work with, including development organizations, international organizations, and some key government parastatals as well that have a close relationship with the ministry and that also will have a key role to play as we work to execute the conference. So representation has been taken from all of those different stakeholders. And then we also have civil society organizations. Samson Itodo, he was the one who spoke on behalf of the committee at the inauguration yesterday. Samson and I worked together, and quite a number of us youth advocates, during the Not Too Young to Run campaign. Samson has been at the forefront of youth advocacy for about 20 years now and advocating for good governance. Samson might no longer be a youth, but you cannot contest the amount of work that he has done in youth development in Nigeria. And again, if what we just wanted was a gathering of like minds, this would have been a very political list. Nobody has said that yet because they can see that what we have is a very diverse lineup for the execution of the conference. So it's not just about, many of us are still within the AM youth bracket. I still am, although I'm on my way out.
There you go.
Many of us are still within that youth bracket as
Right.
well. The National Youth Council of Nigeria represented so many other youth groups like that. And then we have seasoned youth advocates, the likes of Samson. We have international organizations, we have government organizations, other ministries and departments and agencies. So it's everybody working together towards a common goal.
All right.
Super.
But the question then is, what was the yardstick to ensure this 44-member committee in place? And what's the scope of your committee? Because not a lot is said about, beyond the name, which is planning committee.
Yes.
What's the scope? And we know that the confab itself is supposed to be a 30-day
Yes.
confab.
Event.
When exactly is that going to be? When is your committee supposed to end its work? All of that information.
So the inaugural meeting of the committee is scheduled to hold on Friday.
Okay.
Happy to share this because we all got advance notices today. So I'm sure this won't surprise anyone who is watching this. So the inaugural committee is to hold. However, we already have an idea of what we want the conference to look like. The announcement was made by Mr. President during the Independence Day address. So since then, we've done quite a bit of brainstorming along with our young people in civil society as well. So it's not just a government, it's not an echo chamber. And we're looking at a very extensive conference that ensures that voices are heard at different strata of the Nigerian society. So it's not going to be an Abuja conference. It's not a conference for Abuja youths who have access or who maybe are upwardly mobile. We're designing a consultation process that is thorough and that takes into consideration the needs of the different sub-demographics of the Nigerian youth population. So we want to have grassroots engagement, we want to have zonal engagement, we want to have the final national engagement, and also understanding that there has to be some segmentation when it comes to the Nigerian youth population. We have the Gen Zs who are always online, they like their TikTok. You really might not be able to get them to attend a physical conference, even if you put it right at their doorstep. So we also want to have virtual consultations. We also want to be able to receive memoranda from young people across the country and different socio-political groups through the website of the Ministry for Youth Development. This is an entire youth consultation process like we have never before witnessed in this country. Driven by young people, for young people, and we're working really hard to ensure that we deliver on a conference that will not just give us a document, but also actionable outcomes. And even after the conference has been done, we also want to have like a monitoring and evaluation system in place to ensure that, one, the outcomes are actionable, and then two, we can also measure the impact that we make through the conference.
So the dates, sorry,
Right.
because there's a leg to that question that has not been answered. The scope of your committee and
Yes.
when the confab itself would begin, is that something you're looking
Has that
at?
been
So
looked
I
at?
would not want to preempt the committee. As I mentioned earlier, the inaugural meeting is to hold on Friday, God willing. And when you have a 44-member committee, what we have for now is an idea of what we want it to look like. By the time meeting starts, I'm fairly certain that there will be a few more contributions. Regarding the dates, the committee itself, again, I wouldn't want to preempt the committee, but it's not going to be an endless committee with no time frame for when to deliver their work. We're all very serious-minded people. And we know that Nigeria's youth population, I've been working in youth mobilization for a long time. I know that young people are very impatient. I used to be very impatient as well. So there's a limit to how
Have you calmed down now since
Oh,
you
I
joined
have.
government? Let me
I
have.
have.
I'm actually going to ask you,
Yes.
based on the point made by. Let me quote the president. He said, "Look, just look me in the face and tell me
Yes.
whatever is wrong." I mean, you are his special advisor or special assistant.
Advisor would be a promotion, senior special
Okay,
assistant.
senior special
Yes.
assistant, yeah, on citizenship and leadership.
Yes.
I mean, have you had, interface with the president where you have looked him in the face as a young Nigerian woman, telling him, look, these are the things that Nigerian youths actually need? Have you been able to make a case?
Mr.
on
President.
that, and what has been his response so far that will give confidence
Yes.
that indeed the president means it when he says, look me in the eye or look me in the face, tell me what you want and I'll address it?
I would want to say that there are times at the inception of this administration when certain decisions were made, and then based on the feedback gotten from young people, Mr. President rescinded those decisions. A leader who is not a listening leader would not do that. Because there's always that risk of, if I make up my mind on this and then I say I'm not doing this anymore, people will think I'm weak. If he does not listen, if he does not care for opinion, if he does not care about young people specifically, those things would not have happened. And the Honorable Minister for Youth
Are there
Development...
examples you want to give us very quickly?
not at this moment.
Okay.
I was going to also add,
Right.
the Honorable Minister for Youth Development is, as far as I'm concerned, working tirelessly around the clock to ensure that youth voices are heard. The fact that we even have a confab is, Mr. President decided that we were going to do this. So if a charge has come from your principal, you know that it's something that he is truly serious about and that he's truly committed to.
Great.
Yes.
Fingers crossed, we'll be watching the space
Yes.
and following your committee as well as the confab to see
be sure
how
of
that
that.
all develops.
We'll
Thank
be
you so
happy to
much.
engage further as well. Thank
The
you for having
Senior
me.
Special Assistant to President Bola Tinubu on Citizenship and Leadership, Rinsola Abiola.